Understood. The people are a little upset.
Have we been shut off the air yet?
No, we haven't been shut off the air, but they are attacking us. We put on a couple of extra wind talkers. Put on a couple extra firewalls today because they hit me the other day and it had me off the air. Colorado Al had to take the show for about 5 or 10 minutes. Today we've instituted three extra firewalls to go along with the 2 we're already running. I'm going to bounce over here to another question or an informational question that came in before the show from an individual, and it concerns the financial depression out there with over 50,000 active troops in combat. 190,000 actual contractors in Iraq. Now, that's 240,000 Americans that are in the Middle East. And here in America, we've got over 20 million plus jobless looking for work. You take 20 million plus jobless that are looking for work, they're not talking about 20,000 18, 19, 20-year-olds. They're talking about 20,000 that are 25 to 55. And there's over 2 million that are over 55. Mr. Chairman, half of those that are looking for a job are right now have been looking for over 6 months. For these people, that's a Great Depression. And there's no, this is going to deepen this depression. My question, sir, is these seniors, because that's what we're classified at, over 55, are we going to see a remedy at any point, or is it going to continually get worse to the point where people are just going to give up?
Well, first of all, I don't see any hope of the older people. Now, I'm talking about over 40 getting jobs. And people who are 60 to 75, forget it. I mean, unless you're willing to be a greeter at Walmart or work in McDonald's or something, they don't want you. They want you to die. And part of this Medical Reform Act is that's what it's about, because they're not going to spend resources on people who are no longer contributing to society. And people like me, they want to get rid of me as well, of course. And that's one of the reasons I don't live in the United States. I've made it more difficult for them to find me. But no, the situation is going to get worse. It's not going to get better. Even if they put $2.5 trillion each year for the next 2 years from here on, that's $5 trillion. The best they can do is make the economy go sideways. And the unemployment's not going to get better because look what happened in the last 16 months. Unemployment got worse and they put in $2.5 trillion. Excuse me. It's that time of day. This is show number 4. I've only got 3 to go after this. But the point here is that they are incapable of hiring people. And the only people who are going to get hired are by the federal government, because the states aren't going to hire them. And the big corporations are hiring nobody. Young people are going for jobs with degrees, and there's 70 people there competing for one job. The same thing is true in Europe. And the same thing is going to happen in Asia. So to answer the question very simply, there's going to be no jobs. It's going to get worse. People are going to give up. And it could lead to revolution. And I don't want to see that. But that's the way it's headed. I'm just hoping at the next election that the voters can get all these creeps and criminals out of office who are taking all the kickbacks from Wall Street and banking and pharmaceutical companies and insurance companies and transnational conglomerates who have taken all our jobs in the United States and shipped them all over the world. I mean, we've lost 8 million jobs in the last 11 years to to free trade, globalization, offshoring, and outsourcing. It's getting worse. It's not getting better. I mean, if there's any plus in there, I understand that the number of illegal aliens coming into the United States has dropped off dramatically. Well, that's probably true. And that's good. And they should stay home and try to make it there. I mean, the jobs aren't there in America. And that's probably why it's dropped off. And a lot of people have returned home already. And the amount of money going from illegal and legals in the United States to a country like Mexico has dropped from about $25 billion to $21 billion annually. And so, I even saw that the state of Sonora, which is adjacent to the United States, has told the American government and the legislators in Arizona in particular that they can't handle this influx. They have no homes to put them in. They have no jobs for them. And that's true. But, that's Sonora's problem. It's not the problem of American citizens.
Two questions real fast, Mr. Chapman. One is, do you feel the laid off workers that are being laid off by big corporations here in the United States, with these corporations moving their jobs overseas, would you not agree that they should pay their employees 50% of their salary for 5 years instead of firing them like dogs?
Well, I got a better answer than that. If Congress would pass legislation implementing tariffs on goods and services, all those jobs would be forced to come home. And all those transnational corporations who are hiding their money tax-free in the Cayman Islands should be forced to bring it back. That number is $1.5 trillion. That's a lot of money. And at 40% taxation, and that's where our president says he's going to take that taxation after the beginning of the year, that would be $600 billion to help defray the cost of debt or perhaps to create good jobs. The government is trying to destroy America. The transnational corporations are trying to destroy America. And I wrote articles back in 1967, 1980, all about this, but nobody was listening.
Concurrent to that question, do you believe the military-industrial complex is knee-deep in looting America?
Without question, absolutely, and it's been going on for a long, long time. And that complex is controlled by people in the Council on Foreign Relations, the Trilateral Commission, the Bilderberger Group, and they are members of the Illuminati, which is a secret organization where they all cooperate with each other, and they implement all these things not only to make great amounts of money and wealth, but to continue in power. I mean, General Smedley Butler wrote a book in the early 1930s, which I'm sure Drew knows all about. And they wanted him to be essentially dictator of America. And he wasn't having any of that. But he exposed them, and he was right. Right, Drew?
Yes, sir, 100%. Been there, done that.
So we need another Smedley Butler to step forward and say, these are the guys that do it, and this is what they're doing, like I'm trying to do every day on the radio, and have been for years, and on television as well, occasionally, and through the publication. And I want everybody to know who's doing what to them and why, and how to stop them. These people should all be in jail.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're not talking about just senators and congressmen. We're talking about business CEOs, as well as the 9 men and women that sit in black dresses in Washington, D.C., known as, it should have been the checks and balances, but now the Supreme Court justices are just nothing more than sold off politicians, because just this last week, in a case involving an Iowa resident, the Supreme Court of the United States ruled in an age discrimination over job that indicating age as a factor of job discrimination was no longer enough. It has to be the sole factor. Ladies and gentlemen, try and convince anybody in a jury that it was the sole factor, that you're 60 years old and they're hiring somebody that's 35 over you. It's not going to fly. They're going to find a way in there, well, this 35-year-old has got modern education. It's not because of the age, and the 60-year-old has 40 years experience, and we've got to start him off at a $50,000 salary when we start off a college kid at 25. Ladies and gentlemen, all you got to do is look. Open up your eyes. A question coming in from New York.
Well, hold on 1 second.
Yes.
The woman who was just appointed to the Supreme Court has never been to court. She's never practiced as an attorney. I mean, come on, give me a break. Sure, she's a professor, but that doesn't mean anything. I went to university. Most of the professors were dingbats. And besides, I think the fact that she handled Obama's hiding the fact that he wasn't an American citizen had a lot to do with it, plus the fact that she's a hardcore lesbian.
I agree with that. I mean,
hopefully she'll sue me. I'd like to get that in court.
I heard that. From New York, where's that question in from New York? We've got a question in from New York and a question in from Bobby. Bobby, please send your question to me, and New York, please send your question to me, and I'll pick them back up. We'll bring them in after the commercial break here. Question from the chat room. Does Mr. Chapman think income tax is something we should pay? We have a friend who is refusing to pay, but they just held it out of his check, irregardless. He had a hefty penalty.
Well, if you don't pay, they're going to put you in jail. And there's different versions of why the income tax is illegal. And they're all correct. And you're right. But you're not going to win in court. And if you don't pay, you go to jail. If you don't like it, leave the country and go to another country and live there for 5 years and become a citizen of that country, where they're not out of their mind about collecting taxes. And there's plenty of places you can go to. You may not make as much money, but you may be far happier.
A quick question from Beaumont, Texas. If we didn't have income taxes, how would we pay salaries for our government?
Imposts and duties, and that's what the Constitution says. In other words, you put duties on every service and every manufactured good that comes into the United States on a fair basis if they want to do business there. And that'll put everybody back to work. There won't be any advantage to producing and having things overseas, and all the jobs will come home. It's pretty simple. And when those duties come in and are paid by the foreigners in order to be able to do business in the United States, that money will offset what we would have to pay in federal income tax. That's the way it used to be until quite recently, in the last 50 years.
That's the way it should be. And even we have a president that was embarrassed because of the amount of money that he was bringing in from the tariff and duties, and that man's name was President Arthur. From 1881 to 1885, ladies and gentlemen, he took over after President Garfield was murdered. All you got to do is read history and learn the truth. Chester A. Arthur was on the verge of becoming the second president to bring the United States totally free of debt. On the verge. And he probably would have if he'd have been elected a second term. Stop and think about it. Mr. Chapman, we got to take a break. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll be back in 5.5 minutes. My name is Drew Malone Raines III. This is A Marine's Disposition.